In this video, we're going to be talking about cat diet. We're going to start with my journey so far, some research, and then some hot takes. Disclaimer, I am not a vet. You should talk to your vet before making any changes to your own pet's diet. We have been feeding Mar-Vell Hill's Science Diet chicken recipe for the entire time that she has been with us. This is what she was being fed at the shelter, and they gave us a sample size to take home, and then when we asked the vet, they said that this was a good food to be giving her. I have never had a cat before, so naturally when I was getting Mar-Vell, I watched a bunch of YouTube videos to learn how to be the best pet parent. I heard repeatedly about how cats are obligate carnivores and dry food is not an appropriate choice because of its high carbohydrate content. The videos also mention the moisture content of the food, but that's not something I'm going to be talking about in this video. I felt this pressure from everything I was seeing that I should be feeding my cat wet food or even raw food every day. This was not financially or lifestyle-wise feasible for me, so I guiltily continued to feed her the dry food from her robot feeder. About a month ago, I decided to try Dr. Elsie's food. This brand uses gelatin to create the kibble, so it can have a much higher protein content and very little carbohydrates. Hill Science costs about 45 cents a day for Mar-Vell, and Dr. Elsie's was going to be 86 cents a day. Dr. Elsie's was not available at the local store, so I had to buy it online, and the chicken recipe was out of stock, so I settled for the duck recipe. Although I was spending a lot more money, I felt better that I was supposedly feeding Mar-Vell something better for her species. My original video was going to be about how it was going, switching over to Dr. Elsie's food, how Mar-Vell was liking it, with some discussion about how it's not financially and physically available for everyone. I wanted to be able to cite some sources about cat diet that weren't just YouTube videos, so I did some research, and I was very surprised by what I found. First, I simply wanted to find a reputable source that said that a high carbohydrate diet was not healthy for cats and a low carbohydrate dry food or wet food was superior. This is not about the moisture content, but only about the macronutrient makeup. Every veterinary, government, and commercial website that I could find did not make this claim. I could only find content about dry kibble being bad because of the carbohydrate content from blogs, Reddit threads, and YouTube videos. I also saw theories about how vet school doesn't teach enough nutrition and vet clinics are paid by certain brands to recommend certain foods, and that's why they do. I will add a disclaimer here that I am a student of a healthcare field, so I was very skeptical of these theories. I realized I had to dig deeper if I wanted an answer for myself. I went to Google Scholar and veterinary textbooks. I'll link all of the sources below. A lot of what I see about the high carbohydrate content is that it leads to cat obesity or diabetes. Kidney disease is a different discussion because that usually relates to the moisture content of the food. One of my main sources is Applied Veterinary Clinical Nutrition textbook. In this, there is a section talking about how a high carbohydrate content food does not lead to weight gain inherently. As wet food contains more moisture, it may help with satiety and eventually allow the cat to eat less food. Adding water to the dry food itself can have the same effect. In terms of diabetes, the carbohydrate content has also not been shown to increase the risk for diabetes in cats. One section I thought was really interesting is that they acknowledge that although there isn't any scientific evidence connecting the carbohydrate content of dry kibble to diabetes or obesity, there continues to be a public conception that there is. They also suggest that pet nutritionists work to educate the public about how dry kibble is not inherently bad. I'll also link some papers below that talk about how some other environmental factors contribute to obesity and diabetes, not just the macronutrient makeup of the dry kibble. The indoor lifestyle, the level of activity in your cat, its own genetic predisposition are some major contributors. Now that ends the scientific section of this video, and we'll go into my own opinions. Why do these claims about dry kibble exist? This video is probably already a very unpopular take, but I'll keep going. I think there has been a rise in anti-intellectualism and a distrust of healthcare in this country. We see this with human medicine, and of course, why shouldn't it extend to pet medicine? I fell for it myself. I watched all of these videos and assumed that they were true. I only reached for Google Scholar and the textbooks when I wanted to make this video. And even then, they were not a light read. I felt better about myself that I was at least feeding Mar-Vell wet food once in a while and that I had bought Dr. Elsie's, while also feeling bad that I wasn't making a homemade raw diet for her every day. It did not matter that the vet had already told me that Hill Science was an acceptable choice. I wanted to do better. I may not always eat healthy, but I wanted to make sure that another being was not getting a lifestyle disease because of me. I am not saying that there could not be a new study in the future that shows that maybe the dry kibble does contribute to diabetes or obesity. I'm also not saying that science is infallible. The lesson I have learned is to not make myself vulnerable to false information through my own insecurities and to trust the experts. In the end, I think we're going to keep feeding Mar-Vell Hill Science diet. It's affordable for us and available at the local pet stores. I was told by the vet it's good and Mar-Vell likes it. We plan on taking her for a checkup once a year so that if any dietary changes are needed, then we'll be able to stay on top of that. Thanks so much for watching, and let me know what else you want me to investigate.